Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for First Class Holidays Around the World Week. We're excited to have you with us as we celebrate over 30 years of unforgettable journeys and showcase the incredible destinations and trusted supplier partners that make it all possible. This week is all about inspiration, connection, and highlighting the very best of what First Class Holidays has to offer. I'm going to hand you over to the lovely Sarah from Rocky Mountaineer and Canyon Spirit. Please note this session is pre-recorded, but if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat box. We'll do our best to answer them all. If you need anything else, feel free to reach out to us at sales@fcholidays.com. Hope you enjoy the session.
Thank you, Lorna, and thank you everyone for joining today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah. I have actually worked with Rocky Mountaineer coming up 9 years, which is terrifying, and I have been forced to go on the train 10 times. So it is a real struggle of a job. I do appreciate your sympathy. But today I'm going to transport you west. So for the first 20 minutes or so of this session, I will be talking to you about Rocky Mountaineer, which I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with. And then to finish up for the final 10 minutes, I will take us further south into the States and talk about our new brand, Canyon Spirit. So I think it's always a good starting point to acknowledge that we are a train. Train travel is extremely popular at the moment, and Rocky Mountaineer is definitely seeing that trend. So we are getting huge volumes of people who are ticking it off their bucket list. They're probably doing it for some kind of celebration of maybe a retirement holiday, a honeymoon, a big birthday, and it tends to have been on people's radar for a very long time, and it really is such a unique and special experience. I'm gonna first of all play you a very short video just so you kind of get a feel for all things Rocky Mountaineer and you can just imagine yourself on the train. So here goes. Okay, hopefully now you are feeling inspired by our amazing train experience. First things first, I'm going to talk to you about the routes that we offer. As I mentioned, I will be taking us further south at the end of this presentation to our route in America. So ignore that image on the bottom of this page for just now. But in terms of our routes in Canada, we have 3 that your guests can choose from, all of which will start or finish in Vancouver, and they will all start or finish in the Rockies. So you can either travel eastbound out of Vancouver or you can travel westbound down towards Vancouver. Most important thing to remember about Rocky Mountaineer is that your guests never sleep on board the train. We do this for 2 main reasons. One being not actually very comfortable to sleep on a moving train. And secondly, if we traveled at night, they wouldn't get to see all this incredible scenery. So in terms of your guest kind of overall holiday, and first class will obviously work together with you to create the perfect itinerary. Typically, your guests will fly into Calgary, either pick up a car or go by bus and tour a bit of the Rockies first of all. So they might have a couple of nights in Banff, they might spend a night or 2 in Lake Louise, and they might go up to Jasper. Then they will spend 2 consecutive days on the train, heading westbound, and they will normally have a night in a hotel, typically in the town of Kamloops. And then they will finish up in Vancouver. Likelihood is they will spend a couple of nights in this city. Then they might take an Alaska cruise. They might go over to Vancouver Island. They've got all sorts of options. But the train itself is really just either 2 or 3 days of their overall holiday. So the first route I'm going to talk about is our most popular route, and this is the burgundy line that you see at the bottom. So this is what we call First Passage to the West, and this is a route that links Vancouver to Banff and or Lake Louise. So it's a 2-day journey with an overnight in the town of Kamloops. So I'm going to be talking as if you're going eastbound, but do remember your guests can go westbound if they prefer. You'll also see that we've marked on Lake Louise here. We do a stop there, so if guests either want to start or finish their journey, they can do, or they can just stay on the train for another hour and that will take them up to Banff. Or of course they could start in Banff should they prefer. Here is the beautiful city of Vancouver though, and I know I am biased, but I do think it is the best city in the world. We often get guests say they hate cities, then they come to Vancouver and go, oh, well, there's an exception to every rule. This really is the home of Rocky Mountaineer. This is where we have our purpose-built station, which is just kind of slightly out of this shot. It's also where my head office is as well. And typically I would suggest to your clients to spend at least 3 nights here. It's got this amazing backdrop of sea and mountain. It's got a really cosmopolitan downtown area that's very, very compact. You've got Stanley Park in the middle of this image, which is this beautiful park. You really feel like you're surrounded by nature there. And it's a great place for Alaska cruise sail away because you're saying goodbye to all the skyscrapers and you're moving up towards the mountains. So in terms of the train itself, your guests will have spent their night in Vancouver. We will pick them up from their hotel by bus, take them around 10 to 15 minutes to our station, and that's where they're going to board the train around about 8 a.m. in the morning. As we leave Vancouver, we'll go through kind of coastal mountain scenery, lots of kind of beautiful agricultural lands, lots of canyons, before finishing up in Kamloops in the evening. So this is where your guests will disembark the train and head to a hotel for the night. It really is just an overnight stop. It's kind of a working Canadian town. It's perfect for an overnight stay. They can maybe walk along the river. There's a few kind of gastropubs and there's a new wine bar. But in all honesty, your guests will be surprisingly exhausted, eating, drinking, indulging all day. They will be very happy just to kind of conk out. So they'll have their night in a hotel in Kamloops, get up early the next day, and this is where the scenery gets really, really spectacular as we enter into the true Rockies. So the mountains get bigger, the lakes get bluer, we go past various waterfalls, we follow the river for a lot of the journey. And I'm sure you've all seen this very iconic image many, many times before, the beautiful Fairmont Chateau, Lake Louise. So your guests can stop off here if they would like and go see this beautiful turquoise lake. Or as I mentioned, they can stay on the train for about another hour into the little mountain town of Banff. Banff is a great destination. It's a great base for exploring the Rockies and the national parks. It's got good quality hotels, restaurants, bars, great shops, and you really are just surrounded by mountains all around you. This photograph, in fact, all of the photographs I show you in this presentation do not do Canada justice. When you see it in real life, the size and the scale of these mountains are really just beyond belief. So that was our first passage to the west route. That is probably the route that you will book the most, but we also have another 2-day journey that takes our guests through to Jasper. And this route we call Journey Through the Clouds. So this is another 2-day consecutive journey, same midpoint of Kamloops. In fact, it's the same journey on the train between Vancouver and Kamloops, and then the train splits. So half of the train will go along to Banff and Lake Louise, and half of the train will go further north towards Jasper. If they're going the opposite direction, obviously the 2 halves of the train will meet in Kamloops, and then everyone will travel down towards Vancouver. I really love this route. You're really getting into the kind of wilderness part of the Rockies, and Jasper is such a fantastic destination. I'm sure many of you know it really was quite devastated by the wildfires in July last year, but the community's back, it's rebuilding. From a client perspective, they will see fire damage to the trees. They will see some construction areas as the town as the town kind of rebuilds, but they will still have an amazing time. The main downtown core of Jasper is pretty much untouched, and the national parks around here are spectacular. It really is a great destination for wildlife as well. It's a lot more kind of wild and rugged and less touristy than Banff. And some of the lakes, Maligne Lake here, this really is draw Canada. This is what people expect when they go to Canada. So I really encourage you to get your guests up to Jasper. We do actually have a 3-day route as well, which we call Rainforest to Gold Rush. In all honesty, we don't sell huge volumes of it in the UK, but first class can obviously work with you if you do want to look at that route. And that has 2 overnight stops, one in Whistler and one in a little town of Quesnel. But predominantly you will be selling the First Passage to the West and Journey Through the Clouds route. However, in 2026, there is something called the Football World Cup going on, which many of you might have realised. So we are having to get a little bit creative just for the month that this is on next year. Vancouver is actually hosting several of the games, which means hotel availability is pretty much impossible. And where there is availability, it's extortionately priced. So just for the month that the World Cup is on, we are offering a new route called Passage to the Peaks. Again, first class can book this for you, but it's a really great combination of First Passage to the West and Journey Through the Clouds. So it's basically going to do a bit of a triangle. So it will go from Jasper to Kamloops, Kamloops to Banff, or vice versa. Banff to Kamloops, Kamloops to Jasper. So it's the 2 really, I would say, most spectacular days that you can have on the train. You'll be able to do actually a round trip Calgary. So you could fly your guests into Calgary, pick up a car, maybe go all the way up to Jasper, or go by bus, stop there for a couple of nights, take the train down to Kamloops and then back to Banff, and then do a bit more sightseeing of the Rockies there. So you could do a really great kind of Rockies explorer. If you wanted, you could actually add on to Calgary Stampede as well, as that is running at the same time as the World Cup in July. So just an idea. So it's Passage to the Peaks. It's an exclusive just for when the World Cup is on. It's not going to be running outside of those dates. So do get thinking about that for next year. As I mentioned, the train really is just 2 days of your client's itinerary, but there are so many things to see and do in the Rockies. Your guests could go on one of these amazing ice explorers onto the glaciers. They can go up Banff Gondola, Jasper Gondola. They can do boat cruises. They can go on the Skywalk. And again, first class are the experts. They know this part of the world inside out. They will be able to create for you your perfect client itinerary. In terms of the service levels on board, first up, we have our Silverleaf option. So this is what around 30% of our clients do go for. It's a single level carriage, very light and spacious inside, and it's a very kind of informal social atmosphere. Your guests just have to sit back, relax, watch the world go by, and they have a drop-down table where their meals and drinks will come served to them. So it's really great for guests if they just don't want to be moving up and down, they just want to take it slow and just enjoy beautiful scenery. It's worth noting that the food in Silverleaf is prepared off-site. So it's a bit like being, I'd say, on like a business class flight. They can't change their mind and say they don't like options, mushrooms, let's say, on the day. They'd have to give us their dietary requirements in advance, but it really is of a very good standard. However, for guests that want a little bit more added luxury, they want to travel in style, I would definitely recommend our Gold Leaf carriages. I am certainly a Gold Leaf girl. I think this is the way to do it properly. And they're very unique. So our Gold Leaf carriages are actually 2 levels, which I think to a Brit is super exciting because we don't have 2 bi-level carriages in the UK. Your client seats are actually on the top level and they're surrounded by these glass dome panoramic windows. So they're really immersed in the scenery. Downstairs is the dining carriage. So when it comes to meal times, your guests will actually move downstairs, have their gourmet food, and then move back up once they've finished their meal. And in every Gold Leaf carriage at the back, we have an outdoor vestibule area, which is open to the elements. You can get great views. You can take great photographs here. To me, this is my favorite experience my favorite thing about the whole experience. I have stood out there for hours watching sunrises, sunsets. The last train I took, I actually saw a wolf that was running at the same speed as the train. And as the train moved along, I saw the deer that the wolf was chasing. It was a real Am I David Attenborough moment, that kind of thing you can't get by bus or by car. So I personally love the outside vestibules. This is where your client seats are. So as I mentioned, surrounded by these glass dome windows, all the seats recline. They're actually very clever. Unlike aeroplane seats that you would recline into the person behind you, they recline into themselves, so you don't bother the person behind you if you're reclining. They've all got tons of leg space. They've got footrests. What I like to do is put the heated seat on and ask for a little Baileys in my coffee. That's my top tip. But this really is just the most indulgent way to travel. And then that dining carriage, in every gold leaf carriage, there is a kitchen that's dedicated for that carriage. So there's a team of chefs in there making everything fresh, and it's real gourmet standard. Everything we serve on board the train is locally sourced. So it'll be things like British Columbia salmon, Alberta beef, the best pancakes you'll ever have. The wine we serve are from the Okanagan region in British Columbia. So we really do want our guests to feel like they are in Canada. And again, there's that outdoor viewing platform. Great for taking photographs because you're not battling the reflection of the glass as well. Typical day on board our trains will start early, sometime around 8 a.m. in the morning. It is an all-inclusive experience, so your guests do not need to pay for anything at all when they're on the train, unless, of course, they want to buy some merchandise. But they will get a breakfast and a lunch. They don't get an evening meal, but do bear in mind, this is Canadian-sized portions. There's unlimited snacks throughout the day. We do not let our guests go hungry. They will probably only need a very light bite to eat if they've come off the train, if anything. All the drinks are included as well, which includes coffees, teas, soft drinks, alcoholic drinks as well, premium branded beverages, and that's all unlimited. Our hosts really do make the experience though, so they are storytelling throughout the day. They're making sure your guests are wined and dined. We have, I think, an 80% retention rate of returning staff this year, so they really do know what they're talking about and they love their jobs. And in the evening, your guests will actually arrive into their hotel with their bags waiting for them in the hotel room. So it's a really hassle-free, seamless process. They don't need to worry about checking in or long queues at the reception. Everything's all done for them. So they just need to sit back, relax, and enjoy their Rocky Mountaineer experience. We don't operate all year round. We start our season at the end of April and we will run through to the start of October. Really best time depends on what your guests want to get out of their holiday. April and May will still have snowy capped mountains. The animals will be waking up from their hibernation and the lakes still might be a little bit frozen. In fact, Lake Louise thawed last week. So if you want to see turquoise lakes, I would suggest June onwards. Summer is when everything's in full bloom and the temperatures will start rising. And then I personally love autumn, fall months. I love September and October in the Rockies because the lakes are still turquoise, but then they're contrasted by the yellows and oranges in the trees. The animals are still kind of clambering about to get their last food before they go into hibernation. And it tends to get a little bit quieter as well. But really, there's no bad time to go. It's always going to be amazing, whatever you do in this part of the world. Had to include a slide on wildlife, although please note I cannot guarantee wildlife sightings, sadly, but your guests might see black bears, grizzly bears, hawks, eagles, osprey, deer, moose, bighorn sheep, coyotes, wolves. There are so many amazing animals that can be found in British Columbia and Alberta, and they do come right up to the train tracks. So I will keep everything crossed that your guests will get some good wildlife sightings. That's pretty much everything on the Rocky Mountaineer side of things today. I just wanted to highlight our online training program, which is obviously very imaginatively called Tracks. It will go into a little bit more details to everything I've covered today. It's very fun, very interactive. You can find it at www.rockymountaineer.com/tracks. Also, once you've completed that, you get access to the travel agent discount scheme, which obviously is the most important thing. So please do take a look at that. And that's everything on Canada. I am just going to switch my screen now and I am going to be talking to you a little bit more about our route in America. So just bear with me 1 second. Hopefully we should all be good for that. Awesome. So you might be going, what on earth is Canyon Spirit? I know everything that is to know about Rocky Mountaineer, but what is Canyon Spirit? So in 2021, in the middle of the pandemic, in fact, we actually launched a new US route. So this is a route that goes from Denver in Colorado through to Moab in Utah. It's an incredible route, but up until March this year, it was under the Rocky Mountaineer umbrella, which I'll be honest was a little bit confusing for guests because everyone associates Rocky Mountaineer with being in Canada. So we have rebranded. So this route is now Canyon Spirit. The route name itself is called Rockies to the Red Rocks, but unlike Rocky Mountaineer in Canada, it is now Canyon Spirit. So I'm just going to show you how this looks a little bit in terms of our brand architecture. We have an umbrella parent company now called Armstrong Collective. Don't worry about that. You'll never need to know about that. In Canada, there's no change. We've got Rocky Mountaineer as the brand and our 3 routes: First Passage to the West, Journey Through the Clouds, and Rainforest to Gold Rush. But in America, our brand is now Canyon Spirit and our route is Rockies to the Red Rocks. So I am going to play you a short video now. So this will now transport you to the southwest of the States, where you can see what Canyon Spirit is all about.
Imagine a wondrous journey where something new awaits around every bend. Burnt orange vistas carved with colossal canyons, bighorn sheep below even bigger skies, spectacular red rock spires sculpted by time itself, and regionally inspired cuisine with handcrafted cocktails. Introducing Canyon Spirit, an elevated rail adventure through the American Southwest and a gateway to America's most iconic national parks, the Mighty Five and beyond. From Armstrong Collective, the travel visionaries behind Rocky Mountaineer, enjoy over 35 years of hospitality expertise, the storied landscapes of the American Southwest, as well as exceptional comfort and service, are just around the bend with Canyon Spirit.
Okay, so hopefully you saw it's very different to Canada. I must admit I was skeptical, didn't think anything could compare. This route really does. It's still got mountains in the Colorado part, and then you've got this wild landscape in Utah that really does feel like you're on Mars. In actual fact, for the last 2 years, our customer satisfaction scores have been higher in America than they have in Canada. Our guests absolutely love this route. So in 2025, it's a 2-day journey like it is in Canada, linking Denver in Colorado through to Moab in Utah. And you might see on the map here, there's a little town called Glenwood Springs. That's our equivalent of Kamloops, where your guest will get off the train and spend the night in a hotel. New for 2026, though, is your guest will actually have the option of extending the route up to Salt Lake City, which will make it a 3-day journey. So in that instance, they will go from Denver to Glenwood Springs, hotel night there, Glenwood Springs to Moab, hotel night there. They will have about 24 hours, 1 morning and 1 afternoon in Moab to explore some of the national parks. And then they will get back on the train and head up to Salt Lake City, which will be great as it will now connect 2 major hubs. So they can go anywhere really from Salt Lake City and Denver. They are very well connected in terms of domestic and international flights. If your guests don't want to go or start from Salt Lake City, they can remain in Moab if they want to. We've also marked on here Las Vegas. Now, whilst the train doesn't connect Las Vegas to Moab, your guest might want to fly in there, maybe pick up a car in Las Vegas and drive up to Moab via the Mighty Five National Parks in Utah, then pick up the train in Moab and then finish up in Denver. So just some ideas of what your guests might like to do. Obviously, this is right in the middle of the states. They could go on to California. They could go up to Yellowstone, Wyoming. They could go, there's so many options as to what they could do either before or after this train journey. It's slightly shorter times on the train than it is in Canada. In Canada, we're on the train for about 10 or 12 hours per day. In America, between Glenwood Springs and Denver, it's about 8 hours. Glenwood Springs and Moab, you're on the train for about 5 hours. And then between Moab and Salt Lake City is about 6 hours. So it is shorter days on the train in the US. So just to recap, in 2026, your guests will be able to choose between either a 2-day rail journey or a 3-day rail journey. And like Canada, they can travel in either direction. Some of the highlights you will have seen in that video, we've got some beautiful scenery that's really, really unique. I don't think have anything like this in Europe. There is something called the Moffat Tunnel. So this is actually has a height restriction. So unfortunately, we aren't able to bring our gold leaf carriages here. So we still have our silver leaf carriages, and they are a little bit different with Canyon Spirit. So they're no longer called silver leaf in the US. We now call it Signature Experience for what we call our silver leaf carriages in Canada. So they are the same. They will actually be rewrapped. So the train is going to be kind of oranges and reds. So it won't even look like the Rocky Mountaineer train anymore. But this is really kind of the same as in Canada. Guests just sit back, relax, although this time it's now flavors of the American Southwest. However, unique to the US, we also have something called the Premier Upgrade. We don't have this in Canada. We essentially have access to a lounge car, 2 lounge cars, in fact. So guests will sit in their signature experience, but then they'll be able to walk through to these 2 lounge cars. So in these lounge cars, they can have cocktails, canapes. There's actually a piano in one of the lounge cars as well. And there's big windows connecting these carriages so they can lean out, take photographs, get fresh air. This to me is kind of real romantic kind of way of train travel. In terms of the destinations, Denver is where your guests will either start or finish their journey. Great for a couple of nights. There's good botanical gardens, museums, lots of sports games going on in this city. Glenwood Springs is your equivalent of Kamloops, and it's a really attractive little mountain town. It's got the Colorado River running right through it. You've actually got the largest hot springs pool in the world, which you can just see kind of in the middle there. So your guests can have a very indulgent day on board Canyon Spirit, and then they can go and relax even more in the hot springs pool in the evening. All of the hotels that we use in Glenwood Springs are within a 6-minute walk. So we do anticipate that your guests will walk to the hotel, but of course we do put on a bus if they don't want to do that. You can actually see the train track on the left hand of this image. So we are following the Colorado River for about 60% of this journey, really carving through canyons. So it really is kind of very dramatic landscapes. And then Moab is a very cute little town surrounded by red rocks. Great place if you want to buy cowboy boots. It's a real kind of Americana flavor to it. Good standard accommodation. You can go to art galleries. There's lots of little souvenir shops. It's a great base for exploring the Mighty 5 national parks. So in fact, Arches National Park is just 15 minutes outside of Moab, and Canyonlands is about an hour and a half. So when your guests do that extension to Salt Lake City, they will still be able to do those 2 national parks on their train journey, off their train journey, I should say. And then Salt Lake City, I think, is really underrated. It really does look amazing with these mountain backdrop. It's obviously home to the Mormon church. You can see the tabernacle right in the middle of this image. Definitely worth spending a couple of nights. It's actually got a very cool feel to it. This season in Canyon Spirit is a little bit longer than Rocky Mountaineer. We start at the start of April and we run through all the way through to kind of the middle of November. Beautiful in kind of the spring and fall, but do remember Utah gets very, very hot in July and August. Temperatures over kind of 30 degrees. So if your guests don't like the heat, definitely push them towards the spring and the fall. And that really is everything today on Rocky Mountaineer and Canyon Spirit. I hope that was of use. I hope you're feeling inspired to recommend these journeys to your clients. And thank you so much for listening today.